Well, hello. Welcome, everyone. I'm going to teach you how to graph a line in Google Sheets today. All right. The lab that you're going to be doing is a speed and velocity lab. So you're going to be observing two things. You're going to be observing distances and you're going to be observing times. And then what we're going to do is we're going to graph those things in a Google Sheet and we're going to get a best fit line for it. So you're doing those two things. You're collecting that data, and then you're going to make these graphs and answer some questions that we're going to use in the next class. So the first step in creating a Google Sheet is to go to your drive and to hit New Google Sheet. So that's the easiest step that we're going to do today. All right, so we're going to be observing velocity, and we'll kind of look at that a little bit closer next time, but that means I'm going to give this spreadsheet a nice name. This is Principles of Technology, and we want to organize ourselves well, so I'm going to call it POT for Principles of Technology dash Velocity Lab. This will make sure that next time if I lose this file somewhere in my drive and I just search, maybe I forget that it's called Velocity Lab, maybe I forget a lot of things, but at least if I search for Principles of Technology, then I should be able to find this file somewhere in a list. All right. Okay. So we're going to be making a graph, and we're going to be doing a distance versus time graph. All right. Now time is going to be on our x-axis, so I'm going to make a column for time, and we're going to be measuring it in seconds. So I'm going to do time with an S in parentheses around it. So the time part, that tells us what we're measuring, and then the parentheses around the S, that's for seconds. That tells us what units we're going to use. The distances, so we're going to do distance. We're going to be measuring in meters. All right, so I put M in parentheses. Okay, so here's what we're going to be doing. You watched the video already on the lab itself and how we're going to set it up. So we're going to have different distances that we're going, each one increasing by 10 centimeters at a time. Now, 10 centimeters, 10.0 centimeters, right, is not the same thing as meters. We want to put this thing in meters instead. So we're going to have to move our decimal place correctly. There's a couple things that are going to happen whenever we do this that we want to make sure that we fix. So even if I just tried to put in the number 10.0, Google Slides or Google Sheets doesn't really like that. If I want to show more decimal places like I really do, then I can use these two buttons up here at the top to move my decimal and show more zeros or less zeros. This would be the correct answer in centimeters. But I don't want it in centimeters, I want it in meters. So there's 100 centimeters in a meter. That means I would bump my decimal 2 places to the left. And so it'd be 0.10, or sorry, 0.010, just like so. Oh, sorry, 100. So this would be 10 centimeters written in meters instead. But when you do this, see, it's not showing enough zeros. We want to include all of the zeros. So I'm going to bump that over 2 spots so I'm showing the correct number. So that would be 10 centimeters. All right. And remember, we're going to roll that marble 3 times at 10 centimeters. So I'm going to have 3 data points. Oh, look at that. It did it again. Well, look at this. If I highlight all of this row here, and we're going to end up with 30 data points. All right. Then I can show all the decimal places that I want, and it'll change it for me. So I'm going to do 10 centimeters 3 times, then I'm going to do 20 centimeters, then 30, and then 40, and so on and so forth. All right, you get the idea. So I'm going to have all these data points. So I'm going to roll it 3 times, and I'm going to get some times. Maybe I get like 1.1, and maybe 1.2, and maybe 1.1 again, all right, for all of my 10 centimeters ones. So I'm rolling it at 10 centimeter 3 times. So I have 3 different times for that distance measurement. All right. And then maybe it's like 2.1 and 2.2 and 2.3. That sounds wonderful, you know? And so I can make up some data points, and we're going to graph these things in just a second. All right. So here's some fake data points. You're going to have a total of 30 data points by the time you're done. 3 time measurements for each one of those 10 centimeter increments. So 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, all the way up to 100 centimeters, which is 1 full meter. All right. And then you're going to have all the times that go along with them. That should add up to 30 different data points. Now what happens if I want to graph this? All right. To graph this data, I'm going to hit Insert, and then I'm going to come down here to Chart. And all of this stuff is going to pop up. All right. So it says no data right now. Yours might try to graph some data, and that's okay. We're still going to go through the same steps here, but mine right now doesn't know what to graph because I haven't told it what to graph yet. So what I want to do is on my x-axis for my graph, I'm going to want to graph my times, and on my y-axis, I want to graph my distances. And I want to do that in the right kind of chart. So the chart that I'm going to use is called a scatter plot. All right, so when you see this, you have a chart type, and right now it's trying to graph a column, but we don't want that. I'm going to scroll down through my options here, and I'm going to choose a scatter chart. All right. Now the next step is to select my X data and my Y data. So in this stage right here, it says data range, and it says X axis. All right. I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to click on this thing, and it's going to say select the range. So I'm going to select all of this row by clicking up here on the top, and I'm going to hit OK. Did that work? Maybe not. Here, we'll just do this. We'll select just the data that I have. So I hit OK. Okay, it didn't like that. All right, there we go. All right, so what I did was I came up here, I selected the data range, and I selected all my times and all my distances, and I hit OK. All right, so what did it just graph for me? Let's take a look at this thing. It's not working so well. I don't know why I can't grab it. Hey, there we go. All right. So what I see here are all of my data points, and I notice that they're going up in a nice line, just like so. All right. So at the moment, um, everything's kind of hanging off my graph up here, but that's okay. So this scatter plot is going to graph just the points themselves. And then what we want to do is a best fit line to go along with this. All right. The best fit line that we're going to put on here is going to be made down here in the series tab. All right. So when you hit the series tab, we come down and we see there's different things that we can label on here. I'm going to start with the trend line. All right. So when I click that, what it does is it puts a best fit line through all of my data points. You're going to do that. And we want it to be linear because it should be line shaped. And then the choice that I'm going to make is it's going to give me a label choice. I'm going to choose the equation. So use equation. All right. And then another thing I'm going to click over here is this r squared. So far, so good. I have all my data graphed. All right. Everything's on the correct axes. Down here is my seconds, and up here is my distances, all right, in meters. So the next thing I really need to do is give my chart a title, all right? So this chart title should say distance versus time, and we'll even put distance in meters versus time in seconds. All right. So there's the chart title. Now I can change the axes title. So right here in chart and axis titles, it starts with chart, then I can change to the horizontal axis. Now my horizontal axis, this is all my times. So I'm going to type for my title, time, and I'm going to put my units seconds. And we see that it graphs right down here. And I'm going to change my vertical axis title, and it should say, right, these are my distances, distance in meters. And it should graph that. And just like that, my graph is done, and I have my best fit line and all of it. There we go. So you're going to do that with 30 data points. All right. We can do a few things like messing around with this though. I noticed that some of my points are leaking off. If I wanted to, I could actually change some of the axes a little bit, like maybe change the vertical axis to start from a different place or end at a different place. Like maybe I would end it at 0.600. And what would that do? That makes it just so that it fits on my graph a little bit nicer and I can see the tops and bottoms. So you can mess around with that a little bit, but we want a nice graph with the correct title, the axes titled correctly. We want the numbers on the correct axes. You're going to graph that thing out. All right. Good job. See you later.